Hey everybody, this is week 5 of Church's Doctrines, or after week 5, and talking about the discussion board, which covered the questions: what makes the Bible unique? What features make the Bible unique? Have you ever had discussions about the Bible with unbelievers? Name some problem or difficult passages you've encountered. How might they be resolved? And then when you seek to interpret the Bible, how do you do it? What tips can you offer about interpretation? Just a couple things I want to point out about how the discussions are going up to this point. A lot of you guys are doing really, really well. You're typically making these discussion posts earlier in the week than you're used to in previous classes, because we're requiring you, or I'm requiring you, to do a total of 5 posts, right? An initial post and then 4 interactive posts, which I've made this clear, I think, but when I ask for a total of 5, I'm typically asking for that 1 initial post and then 4 additional posts. I don't care if you're interacting and commenting on others, and that's the 4 more, or if a couple of them are interacting with others and a couple of them you're just adding to and making additional kind of comments as you're reading other people's, or as you've had an additional thought. In fact, I enjoy those more than you just trying to say something nice about someone else's. Uh, what I'm really looking for is that over the course of the week, you guys are continuing to think through your initial thinking about the questions, and you're expanding on it, you're processing it, and maybe if it's a doctrinal thing, you're maybe even changing your position on it, which is fine. So that's kind of the idea that I'm looking for. I've noticed that when I make comments throughout the week, I will often add to the questions, or I'll clarify or give a distinction of how I'm feeling the discussion is going, and then I'll ask you specifically, or I'll ask you to watch a video and then comment on it. Um, I actually want you to do that. That's not really optional. If I'm doing it the last Monday and you've already done all your posts, and I happen to put something up on Monday, okay, that's not a big deal. But when I comment on Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and you haven't done all your posts yet, I'd like you to comment on if I post a video, or I give a link, or I just ask for a follow-up to this. I've noticed that some of you guys don't really answer my question, and I'm realizing that after I read all of yours, because several of you end up doing a great job of answering my questions or commenting on the posts or the links or the clips that I've put up. And then I'm realizing that a good portion of you guys aren't really responding much at all to what I'm asking of you. So the whole idea here is that you're not just making one initial post at on Thursday or Friday, and then you kind of read other people's and try to think up some nice thing to say about what they wrote. The idea is that you're really interacting. I want to be clear. Some of you are doing an amazing job with this. Others of you are just doing okay, and you could do better. This is a big part of this course. If you've had me in other courses, I don't push the discussions quite as hard as I do in this course, because you basically here are just doing these quizzes, and these discussions is the main part of your processing of the material. So it's a big deal, and you got 2 more, and I'm going to grade those a lot heavier, the last 2 discussions. So make sure you are putting the effort into those and enjoying them, because they're a great place to process a lot of these things. So without going on and on and on about that, just to comment on I'm gonna give a clip that maybe a lot of you found. Is really easy to find, this link of Josh McDowell. He comments on what makes the Bible so special. So I'm just going to put that in there, and I wanted to see what you guys, if someone asks you why is the Bible so special, what would you say? Do you have a response, or do you have a thought process that you kind of carry with you, that these are the things that really stand out to you, that really make the Bible unique and special, that set it apart from every other book ever written? So that's a great question for you guys to have. Have you ever had, and most of you guys did a pretty good job, but I noticed a lot of times you guys, very generic answers. Try to come up with something, do some research, even if you don't have, something off the top of your head. These answers shouldn't be just off the top of your head. The next question: have you ever had discussions about the Bible with unbelievers? Um, okay, some of you just would say, yeah, I haven't. It's awesome. And I want you to dig a little deeper on questions like that. Tell me what those discussions have been like. If you haven't had discussions with unbelievers about the Bible, why do you think that is? Is that a significant issue, or what does that tell you about yourself or other people if you haven't even talked about it? Maybe you're fine talking about it, but you're just people just aren't interested anymore in your circles. That's something to talk about. So in these discussions, you should be processing, not just minimally answering the question just to say you answered it, but expanding on it and interacting with each other on it. Okay, so then name some problem or difficult passages you've encountered. Um, some of you again did an amazing job with this, and you guys interacted beautifully with each other, picking out some problem passages that you've encountered, and then you gave some ideas on how those might be resolved. If you've got any that you specifically want me to help you with, feel free. It's really easy to do web searches and find reliable authors and scholars that will comment on the most typical problem passages, for lack of a better term. But I'm happy to help you with those. The whole point of the discussion was not for me to tell you here are the problem passages of the Bible, but more for you guys to show what you recognize, what you've worked through, and how do you resolve those tensions in those passages when you come across them, and maybe have you come across them in conversations with other people. Maybe an unbeliever talking about the Bible has brought up a passage like that. So those are the types of things I was hoping to see. And then when you seek to interpret the Bible, how do you do it? And what tips do you offer about interpretation? Some of you, again, had some great stuff. Others, it's a good thing you're in Bible school. You have a lot to learn. You have not taken hermeneutics yet. That's not going to teach you everything you need to know, but it's going to teach you a lot, and it's going to make you at least aware of a lot that you don't know yet. So I gave you a link, and I just want to briefly touch on that link. Let me see if I can bring it up. That short guide to biblical interpretation. This is not exhaustive. I just wanted to try to find something that was easy for you guys to pull up and gives you kind of a really brief breakdown of what proper biblical interpretation is. Some of you guys were just answering things like, well, I check with my pastor when I do interpretation and see what he thinks, or study Bible or whatever else. What I want you guys to start to be aware of is there's a process of proper biblical interpretation, and what it really is it's the process of taking a form of literature. The Bible is filled with different forms of literature, and you're taking on the process of making an interpretive decision and then applying it to your life or others' lives. That article had some stuff on why interpretation is so necessary. It gave you a big list of basic tools in terms of the different types of translations. Talked a little bit about the interpretive process. That'll be something that you'll want, well, you will get more into. It gave a cool little diagram. That's probably not the one that you'll probably have in your classes, but it'll give you an idea of, there's lots of different diagrams people use to describe the interpretive cycle, and that's just one of them. But it's good for you to be exposed to some of those. And then this particular article talked about the phases of interpretation, and it talked about historical narratives, poetry and song, legal writings. These are what you would often call genres. When you take hermeneutics, you'll likely, if you take it with distance learning, we almost exclusively deal with the genres of Scripture, but you'll study the different genres. So all that means is that it's a very important process for you to be aware of when you're studying Genesis. Genesis is it's narrative. It's in story form, and it's a historical narrative. You have the Gospels, which often have a lot of narrative in it as well. But so it's a similar genre as opposed to like the prophetic books where the prophets wrote. Totally different genre. Psalms, that's a totally different genre that has poetry and song in it. The legal writings, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, Deuteronomy, are all a different type. While they might involve things like narrative, the whole point of what I'm trying to just expose you to here is that each you know, each book you can analyze it and say, what kind of literature is this, and what kind of biblical literature is it, and what do I need to know about that type of biblical literature in order to do a proper study and understanding of it. Then observation, talking about the historical and literary context, that is something that article talked about that hopefully you guys are starting to grasp a little bit. And then the process of prayer and meditation and wrestling with the different things, and then determining the meaning and application. So the interpretation is different than an application. The application is exclusively talking about, now, what does this mean to me today in my context? The interpretation is hitting at, what did that author mean when he wrote it to the original audience? That's where you have to start, and to do an application before you've done determined the meaning and gone through the interpretive process, you're going to run into some issues. So anyway, that's a little bit. Some of you guys seem to have a basic understanding of those things. Others of you, it looks like it's going to be a huge shock, but you're going to love it, and it's going to be a really beneficial part of your biblical training. So that's it for this week. This is a really long clip, but hopefully it's helpful for you. And yeah, I'll see you in the next one. All right, bye.